I am your host, John Keene. As always, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you check us out. Best Damn Podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, The Real Best Damn, other one's Best Damn Podcast. If you don't see the blue check, it's not us. Check out our latest videos. We got new stuff posting all the time. All the links are in the description box down below. If you'd like to donate support to the channel, links are down there as well. You can get subscriptions and all kinds of cool stuff. Today we're going to be talking about circumambulation. I know that this is like a really out there one for a lot of you, like especially whenever we get into Freemasonry and Masonic symbolism and rituals and Luciferianism. I think it gets a little bit, tricky because so many people are still caught in the religious paradigm, right? And that's kind of I think that's one of the harder ones to break out of, right? Is organized religion. Whenever we are pursuing spiritual enlightenment and awakening, because we're so ingrained, into our spiritual beliefs, it's like a familial thing. You'll have people in your family like, we're Christian in this family, or we're Catholic in this family, telling you what the expected belief is, or belief system is. So anytime you challenge that, right, it's often looked at as evil, because any opposing view or belief is considered to be evil, especially with the negative connotation that is attached to words like illumination, Freemasonry, symbolism, the occult, Hermeticism. But remember, words like the occult sound dark, they sound spooky, they sound evil, but the truth is occult means to be hidden, something that's hidden in plain sight, and hermetics, that means to be sealed, hermetically sealed, something that's sealed, within a mystery. And that's what's really cool about this, because the mystery ultimately is you, right? It's you. It's about discovering oneself. And a lot of times, we've seen psychologists, spiritualists, many different people over the decades, some of the greatest minds, shed light onto this process of illumination and what actually has to happen in order to kind of trigger these things. And we can speed up the process, if you will, through certain rituals, certain practices. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of these different rituals and practices, some of these different schools of thought and beliefs, and we're going to let you decide. As always, we're going to let you decide, is this bullshit? Is it not? Is circumambulation, is this something that really could work? And do we see this? And I believe we do. We see this reflected or projected into our society in a variety of different ways, like everything. And we're going to, here, matter of fact, let's go ahead and get into it right now. Let's go to the definition first of circumambulation. I feel like I had it over here, right here. Circumambulation. Let me say thank you. Big ups to everybody for joining me live. Please make sure to hit that like, give us a thumbs up, share this link. That way other people can check it out. So if you belong to like Facebook groups or anything like that. If you are watching on Twitter or Instagram or any of those, please make sure to follow, click the notification bell, hit the like. And if you'd like to book your own personal tarot reading, we do the readings. You can check out those videos as well. All the links are down in the description box down below. Circumambulation. Circumambulation, from the Latin circum, or around, right? Like a circumference or a circle. And ambulatus means to walk. So it is the act of moving around a sacred object or an idol. And remember, whenever we look back into the book of Genesis, in particular, we see that it discusses that humans were made in the image of the Elohim. An image means a phantom, a projection, an illusion, or an idol, right? So when it talks about not worshiping idols in the Bible, it's talking about the physical self, right? Your avatar, if you will. This, the illusion, which is a self, the specter, which is a self. So, circumambulation of temples or deity images is an integral part of the Hindu and the Buddhist devotional practice known as Sanskrit. It also is present in other religions, including Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And we're going to show you a few examples of some of the structures and, what was kind of brought to the attention by people like Carl Jung, right? And through psychotherapy, the dissecting of the mind and the conscious and subconscious self. Circumambulation, and we see this also through Freemasonic rituals where they will act out different processes akin to cycles or orbits or circles, right? Where they are, in essence, walking it out in real life in a physical representation, acting it out in ritual form to give power or attract it on a metaphysical level. They're trying, you've heard as above, so below, as below, so above, right? As it is on heaven, as it is on earth, same principle here. It's saying that we can bind something down here and it will be bound in the spiritual realm, or vice versa. You see people trying to bind something spiritually to bind it physically, because our realities, are go hand in hand. And everything you see on earth is, especially in a spiritual way of looking at things, operates in cycles. We see cosmic cycles from 3,600 year cycles to 7,000 year cycles, 12,500 year cycles, 24,000 year cycles, right? Catastrophic cycles. And then you break it down into centuries and decades and zodiacal cycles, right? And that would, be why we have things like the age of Pisces ending, going into the age of Aquarius. These, that's a precession of the equinox. So everything's flowing in cycles. And then you look at the solar system or the sol system, and you see that all of the planets are also operating on orbits, which is in essence they're cycling around, one another. They're moons. They're all cycling around the sun. The sun is cycling around the galaxy. The galaxy's you get with the super galaxy. You get what I'm saying? So it's like everything is, synchronized, if you will, working in this cosmic circle, right? The circle of life. That's why you see in symbolism, a lot of times you'll see the serpent or the dragon devouring its own tail. This is akin to the infinity symbol, the Vesica Pisces, reincarnation. It's got a million different variations, and we can get into the alchemy of this and the numerology of this and all of that as we go through this tonight. But ultimately, that's what these depictions are, right? Is circumambulation, the process of working your way from the outside inward, right? And what are you trying to find by going inward? Well, you're trying to find the true self, you, the center of you, that divine spark, God, if you will, Christ, if you will. And a lot of people believe, especially within the mystery schools, that through rites and through rituals, that we can bring about or trigger different levels or degrees of this process and kind of, speed it up. And this is what you would call in Rosacrucianism as spiritual alchemy, right? And this is also practiced a lot within Hermeticism as well, mentalism as well. And this spiritual alchemy is converting of iron to gold, right? The physical lower self, the ego, the persona, the mask that we wear that makes us all an individual, our shadow, our image, our idol. Convert that into spirit or Christ consciousness. You know, and there is a number of processes that take place within that, and that's why you see so many different correlations. You'll see it astrologically connected, where there was a reflection taking place in the stars of what's going on within each and every one of us. A collective level, our organs correlate to all of this. That's why you see consciousness reflecting within itself, because this pattern, this sequence, this golden ratio, right, that's within each and every one of us. It's almost like a cheat code, if you will, to enlightenment or illumination. And that's what a lot of the ancients were describing within their spiritual practices, right? You see the Muslims circumambulating the Kaaba, right? Practice of Kabbalah, same thing, you know. The Saturnian cube, Saturn, representing the All-Father or the Father. This is a six-sided cube. It's hexagonal, right? And 6 represents the physical self, right? The physical body. And this, also, which the black cube in Masonry, the Masonic cube, equals 666 as well, right? Because, the dimensions of it are 1 + 5, 1 + 5, 1 + 5, and we see that Saturn, representing this masculine, representing the physical, which is, right, the lower self. It's what we're actually trying to transmute into something higher, and they're orbiting it, right? They're circling around it like in an orbit, like the rings around Saturn, like satellites or moons, right? And they are ritualizing this process of circumambulation, right? Getting closer and closer to touch it, as they move around this thing. And you can see here, right? Different, and this is engraving showing the circumambulation of the entered apprentice degree in Freemasonry. So, like I said, when the entered apprentice comes into the room, and I'm going to show you videos of this too, right? They're blindfolded and they walk around the room making this, this figure 6, right? The 6 figure within the room, and they say different things, and they're called back out to, and they're asking for permission to enter, and it's symbolizing a spiritual thing that's taking place. So, just putting that out there. So, and we're going to look at a million different versions of this. And this was, this is Duncan's Ritual and Monitor of Freemasonry, the Entered Apprentice of the First Degree. And this shows you they assemble in a room well guarded from all Cowans and eavesdroppers in the second and third story, as the case may be, right? In the second and third story representing the degrees, there's 3 degrees, of some building suitably prepared and furnished for lodge purposes, which by Masons term the ground floor of King Solomon's temple. And remember, King Solomon was the wisest man to ever live, and he used demons to build his temple, right? Demons are demonstrations of our persona. They're masks that we wear. We all have demons, right? It's exorcising those demons by going within, right, and facing each part of ourselves. And in the 3 different degrees of illumination, I believe the first degree is discovering one's darkness, their shadow side. So looking at our evil, our lower self, and a lot of people never come out of that degree, by the way. So if you ever are trying, an initiate of the flame, or trying to discover the master keys for yourself, and not everyone has to swear an oath in order to do this process, with lots of study. You yourself, could do this too. But you see a lot of people in this first degree or first layer of this process of circumambulation, that first trip around, right? They get stuck in the muck, you know, of their own darkness. You know, it's like we're not taught to be, you know, to have shame when it comes to our darkness or fear of our darkness, but to essentially look at it in the mirror, look at it right in the face, and to you know, explore it. You know, to explore it and see where it comes from, where it originates. And this is, you know, where we get into things like Hermetic principles or Rosacrucianism, where, you know, the mental alchemy takes place. Learning how to control one's thoughts, learning how to control one's emotions, learning how to be incredibly intentional with your words, with the things that you allow in your mind, you know, the things that you put in your body. Essentially, you know, what we're trying to do with this process of, and if you think about karma, you know, karmic cycles, you hear a lot of this talked about, especially in tarot and things like that, astrology, where we constantly repeat cycles in our life. Have you ever got a karmic partner as like a boyfriend or a girlfriend? It's like the same type of person over and over and over, you know, and you hear, oh, well, you know, you got a soul contract for this. And it's like, a lot of times you'll be fed the same situation over and over until you do something differently. Until you have learned from the experience, you know, you've gotten closer to self. You've discovered why you are attracting people like that or experiences like that. What you are doing to enable that or to cause or create that, and you're changing the behavior, and, you know, in a sense you're gaining wisdom or knowledge, you know, and it's ultimately about yourself, which allows you to understand the rest of the world better and allows you to have better control. You know, that's why it's self-mastery. It's not about mastering everyone and everything else. It's like getting a grip on you, your energy, because then you get a grip on what you attract, right? So, because the primary law is frequency, right? The primary law is frequency. So, you know, working on ourselves, you know, starting by taking apart our thoughts, right? Taking our thoughts captive, you know, and, you know, not allowing negative shit to creep in, negative, you know, thoughts, negative self-talk, any of that, and not allowing it to become emotions, and understanding where our trauma and our wounds and all of that come from on an emotional level too. You know, going back and healing all of that, you know, is kind of like some of the, you know, the very beginning stages of a lot of this. And I can tell you, whenever you go within yourself and start looking at these things, and this is triggered within you, this process of awakening is triggered within you, you're going to meet your demons. You know, wherever those traumas are, wherever those experiences are, wherever those cycles are that you need to overcome or learn through, that's where you meet your demons. And by demons, I mean, these are, you know, archetypes or character defects or attachments that we have to things that are toxic or bring distortion into our life and into our vibration. You know, it's like, it could be something as simple as like, you know, not loving yourself or not thinking highly of yourself, or, you know, it's like too, like whatever we believe in is what we will, the reality we will always experience. So it's like, you ever meet a person that doesn't believe in love, that doesn't believe in, you know, true love or things that last a lifetime, or, you know, working through things or whatever. It's like, you know, they will always, you know, end up in an experience that, you know, falls short of true love, because they don't even have the belief that it can be real or possible, you know, to begin with. And maybe, you know, they need those experiences to show them, you know, that maybe there is. Maybe it's the experience of them quitting on someone and the person still continuing to love them no matter what, you know, will prove to them that true love exists. Whatever it is, it's like whatever your belief is, you know, the universe has no choice but to show you evidence of, you know, what you believe things to be. Now, we are going to move forward here. And you can see the pattern here as well. In Zen Buddhism, it can mean any ritual circuit or circumambulation at Tassajara each morning. The officiating priest visits 4 different altars, and remember those are north, south, east, west, right? Whenever we look at the Tetragrammaton, it's the 4 names of God as well. Yod, He, Bod, He, hands nailed, feet nailed. The 4 horsemen, right? This is, the 4 ensigns. I mean, there's a million, the 4 winds, okay? And these are, angels. They're 90-degree angles that make up, our world, our matrix. These are governors, or that's why they're called names of God. And remember, like the planets, 7 planets, deities, these are archetypal energies for everyone, like on a collective scale. Now, they visit the 4 different altars on their way to Zendo to make vows and offerings of incense. The Jundo begins with the first roll down of the Han and ends with Doshi entering Zendo with the 3rd roll down. And see, it's like 1, 2, 3. These are the degrees. After offering incense and bowing to the altar, the Doshi walks around the Zendo behind the meditators in what is called the Kenton, the inspection of the sitting platform, and he passes each resident, raises their hands without bowing, the joint Doshi sitters in mutual acknowledgement, blah, blah, blah. Then Abrahamic religions and the Catholic Church, priest sometimes circumambulates an altar with incense and with a thurible. Also with some Catholic shrines, in tradition, the circle of the object of the place, usually relics of a saint or an image of Jesus or Virgin Mary. Often this is performed 3 times, once again the 3 degrees, as a reference to the Trinity and the Tridentine Rite. The elements of bread and wine are also incensed before the consecration by encircling them twice counterclockwise, once clockwise. The counterclockwise, like the left hand, the right hand. Like I said, the 1st degree is about discovering darkness. The 2nd degree is merging darkness with oneself. And the 3rd degree is coming to the light. And like I said, it's kind of like a loose outline. But that's kind of how it works. And I mean, it goes on and on. The candidates of Freemasonry. Candidates for the 3 principal degrees of Freemasonry circumambulate the altar in the lodge room. It is done in a clockwise fashion. The number of times which candidates ambulate around the altar depends on which degree is being presented. And there's a million other variations of this. Okay? Because it's all basically the same. Yeah. Now, we're going to show some Masonic initiation rituals here. We're going to just kind of show you how, they walk into the room and they've got the blindfold on and all this good shit. So let's make sure you guys have sound. And everybody, please hit that like if you are in the chat and all that. It really does help me. So.
İstanbul'da kurulan ilk lojadan bu yana gizliliğini koruyarak gelen masonların görüntülerinin deşifre edilmesi ve masonluğu alınmanız kabul edilse de edilmese bizim düşünce odası dediğimiz gözleriniz açıldıktan sonra da göreceklerinizi hiç kimse söylemeyeceğinize namusunuz ve onurunuz üzerine söz veriniz. Sayın Aykut Erensoy, evet söz veririm. Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün, söz veririm. Sayın Kenan Ali Akman, evet söz veririm. Soruşturucu kardeşim, adayları oturtunuz.
Here we go.
Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz? Metal bir parça, kılıç. Sayın Aykut Erensoy, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz?
They use fucking symbolism with the same here, the symbol of the great architect of the universe. I swear with all my wish and will.
destek ve bulunturma içtenlikle dolu olarak söz veriyorum. Düzenli olarak katılacağım. Bu şok görüntülerin hemen ardından yayınlanan diğer çekimlerde ise Türkiye Masonluğu tamamen deşifre oldu. Bu görüntülerde yalnızca 33. dereceden Masonların katılabildiği şeytana tapma ayini icra edildi. Ayini yöneten büyük üstad, locanın ortasında kesilen
and this is supposed to be like high-ranking ritual that you see here. I don't know. You know, obviously, these are old films here. So, and a lot of people, you know, don't like Masonry, so, because they believe that ultimately this true light, and according to people like Albert Pike, the godfather of Freemasonry, is Lucifer. So Lucifer is a Latin name for the morning appearances of the planet Venus. It corresponds to the Greek name Phosphorus, or light bringer, and Eosphorus, or dawn bringer. The entity's Latin name was subsequently absorbed into Christianity as a name for the devil. Modern scholarship generally translates the term into the relevant Bible passage, Isaiah 14:12, where the Greek Septuagint as morning star or shining one rather than a pronoun. Lucifer is found in the Latin Vulgate. The word Lucifer refers to Jesus in the Latin Vulgate. Refer to Jesus. The word Lucifer is also used in the Latin version of the Exultet in the Easter Proclamation as a name for the devil in Christian theology. The more common meaning in English, Lucifer, is a rendering of the Hebrew, which is Hillel. In Isaiah, given the King James Version of the Bible, the translated version took the word from the Latin Vulgate and translated the word Lucifer, meaning morning star, planet Venus, or light bringer, light bearer. And a lot of times you will see Lucifer also depicted as, you know, the Baphomet. And this is the mixing of, you know, the two natures, the light and the dark. You see, as above, so below. He's got two representing the two pillars, right? The duality, the sun and the moon, you know, mammal, reptile, you know, the tits, and, you know, he's got a dick, and then you see the Caduceus here, the horns, you know, he's got this, you know, the 6 God, the 5 God. I mean, it's got all of it here, right? And it's representing the duality, and it's like about finding the middle path or the narrow path, right? Which is being neutral in essence, you know. So, which is a powerful place to be when trying to manifest, you know, and that's why a lot of people gravitate towards that, you know, just to be all the way honest with you. That's why a lot of people gravitate towards that. We're going to look at the rite of circumambulation. And geez, when I do videos, guys, I have to turn off the air because it's so fucking loud. But I shit you not, it gets so hot in here. Most can't read it. What? I don't know what you guys weren't able to read, but I'm trying to read things out loud. Yeah, well, that's why I was reading the parts of the ritual that I could. So, hey, I mean, if you couldn't read it, you weren't missing much. It was just I was reading the highlights. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Let me go to the chat here. Just say what's up to James Dunn. You're so identical to Baphomet. you definitely are, James. Mist is in the house. Matthew Short, Stool Purger, Kimberly F. Thank you so much for everybody for joining me. I appreciate you guys big time. So thank you. And I am starting to sweat now. So, all right, here we go. Let's jump over here now. Let's get back into this. I just want to say what's up to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. We're going to get into so much of this too, by the way. I've got so much crazy shit. And we're going to look at a lot of this. So, getting hot here. All right. The rite of circumambulation. To circumambulate means to walk round about, which is derived from the Latin word circum, meaning around, or ambulatum, meaning to walk. Its original sense is referred to the portion of religious rites and the ancient ceremonies of initiation, wherein the candidate was conducted in a formal procession around the altar or some other holy and consecrated object to preambulate, which in the Latin word circum is replaced by the Latin word per, which means through. Originally meant walk through, up or down or over, for the purpose of surveying the land or patrolling a beat. Nowadays, perambulate is often used in a general sense, meaning to walk about or around. In lodges of operative Freemasonry and also in the formative period of modern speculative Freemasonry, the clear distinction between circumambulation and perambulation was always maintained in the ceremonials. The rite of circumambulation obviously relates to the circle, which is a symbol of the all-embracing principle of divine manifestation, that is without beginning or ending, being complete and absolute. And remember, a circle is it's a sphere. It's a cycle. It's a womb, right? And when we look at the Hebrew definition for the word matrix, it means a womb. Womb is a matrix. So we are born, our cells are circles, right? We sit in a belly, when we're forming our head, and our brain, even down to atoms, molecules, all of this, guys. And then you look at planets and orbits of planets and, like I said, so everything kind of, falls into this. And then, like I said, things working, in cycles. And speculative Freemasonry is, in essence, gives you more of the freedom to interpret it more loosely, right? So a lot of people incorporate a lot of different schools of thought into speculative Freemasonry. The rite of circumambulation obviously relates to the circle, which is the symbol of the all-embracing principle of divine manifestation, that is without beginning or ending, being complete and absolute. The attributes of the divine manifestation are illustrated in the Wisdom of Solomon, which is an important part of the compendium of moral and spiritual instructions known as the Book of Proverbs, much of which repeats earlier Egyptian exhortations almost word for word. When he set the heavens in their place, I was there. When he girdled the ocean with the horizon, when he fixed the canopy of the clouds overhead and set the springs of oceans firm in their place, when he prescribed its limits for the sea and knit together earth foundations. The rite of circumambulation is also related to the circle of existence, which is a symbol of the passage of the spiritual self through the cycle of life, whence darkness is dispelled and the long upward course of purification is begun, leading towards that perfection which can only be achieved in the life hereafter. The circle is symbolical of and can only be completed by a rebirth, as described in the words of Jesus when he cleansed the temple, which is recorded in the following words of John 3:7-8. You ought not be astonished then when I tell you that you must be born over again. The winds blow where it wills. You hear the sound of it, but you do not know where it comes from or where it is going. So with everyone who was born from the Spirit. And he's like, he's telling you, how do you know, how will you understand heavenly things if you don't even understand the things of this earth, right? And if you think about the esoteric nature of Scripture and all of this, it's like you can't even understand the metaphysical explanation, how the stuff works in an earthly sense. How are you going to understand on a whole different level? It's like you don't even get what's going on here. How are you going to get what's going on inside? It's like you got to know yourself first. And then, once you understand how you work, you see everything in your reality as a projection of you, right? And it follows those same principles, those same rules. It's absolutely crazy. Now, originally, circumambulation was only performed in the lodge in relation to specific preparation and examination of the candidate prior to his obligation to ensure that he was properly prepared and a fit and proper person to participate in the ensuing ceremony. This procedure reflected the combined symbolism of the circle and the circle of existence, which was intended to remind the candidate that his upward course of purification was beginning. All other movements in the lodge were made by the most direct and convenient route, which clearly distinguished the rite of circumambulation from routine movements and emphasized the importance of the rite. This visible distinction is still maintained in lodges of operative Freemasons and also in the lodges of speculative Freemasons that follow either the emulation working or some of the old Scottish workings. Nowadays, the word circumambulation has almost disappeared from use in speculative craft Freemasonry, and perambulation is usually used to describe all movements in the floor of the lodge. In the 18th century, the development of the rituals of speculative craft Freemasonry was at its peak. At that time, the Masonic scholars who prepared the rituals gave clear and conventional explanations of the ceremonials, which left no doubt of their intention that the rite of circumambulation should represent toilsome progress of humanity. And think about that, right? Collectively, we go through cycles too, Advancing from barbarism to civilization and from ignorance to enlightenment. This advancement will ultimately lead us from the profane earthly existence to a state of perfection in that grand lodge above, eternal in the heavens. Although they are not identical with the rituals now worked, some of the very old catechisms and lectures clearly indicate that the early ritualists visualized the progression of candidates through the 3 degrees of speculative craft Freemasonry as a symbolic journey from the profane world to a spiritual paradise, typified by the progress of the priest through the several compartments of King Solomon's temple. And I'm just going to keep it real with you guys. I have honestly been thinking about putting together my own little mystery school for years now. And, as I was taking a break from, content creation and all that, I really worked on my craft, and I've got so much stuff I can share with you guys, as far as like self-initiation and rites and rituals and so many different things that I feel has triggered me into awakening, like fucking, 10th gear type shit, like for real. Like hair blowing back, cheeks blowing back, full throttle into illumination, and it's like, it's chaotic at times, but I mean, I've really seen some shit, and it's like, this stuff works, it really does. And each time I go on these loops, these journeys, if you will, these cycles, these chapters in my life, which I should write a book. A million people's told me that. All the things that I've been through, I've seen, I went through. A lot of you guys have seen me. I've traveled all over the fucking place. I've been so many people. I've been in so many wild situations. Yeah. So it's like, but I always take something away from each one. Every time I learn something about people, I learn something about myself. I learn more about how everything works, how everything's connected, how much control we actually do have over our reality, over our world, and how beautiful of a gift life truly is. How special life truly is, how special love is. It's like, I wish, if that was one thing I could like give to people, I think along the way, along the journey, would be to give people that same understanding of love. You know, it's like, love don't quit, love don't give up. You know, love is eternal, it's unconditional. You know, when you have that love for yourself, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything like that, and I'm not. It's like, I have bad days and days I don't even like myself, but I have love for myself, you know, and I have love for others, and no matter how down I get or, you know, whatever, you know, I can look back on just good memories in life with people I love and still feel the same love the day I met those people. You know, it's like, once I love someone, I always love them, because, you know, I have so much love within my heart for myself. And, you know, it's like, if you could share that with other people, you know, share the love you've attained, share, you know, like, and when you've seen life be taken away and destroyed and abused and all of that, it's like, it makes you appreciate it that much more, because you know any moment it could be gone, you know. And it's usually not until people are gone out of our life that we appreciate them as well, you know. The progression still has a place in speculative craft Freemasonry. The first degree symbolizes rebirth, which is emblematically represented by the priest stepping between the two great pillars and passing through the ulum, the porch or entrance at the eastern end of the temple. The second degree symbolizes life, education, and work, which is represented emblematically by the priest entering the temple proper and making ritual offerings in the hikal, or the holy place set aside for the celebration of divine service by the priest. And the third degree symbolizes a victorious completion of this earthly existence, culminating in the perfection that can only be achieved by passing through the mystic veil, which cannot be penetrated by human eyes, which is emblematically represented by the high priest entering the debir, or holy of holies, or the western end of the temple, and the debir was in the form of a perfect cube, and was considered to be the seat of Shekinah, or the dwelling place of God in the midst of his people. And like I said, right, that darkness, the purification or the combining of natures, and then illumination, that third eye opening, that sacred secretion, enlightenment. By the second half of the 19th century, circumambulation was no longer regarded as purely religious or mystical practice, having acquired a new and more general usage, simply meaning to walk around or about. During the same period, perambulation had also lost its specific meaning, because it was used more and more frequently when circumambulation previously would have been to describe the movement more accurately. The influence of Egypt, or the explanation of the first tracing board, states the usage and customs among Freemasons have ever borne an affinity to those of the ancient Egyptians, while other statements in the ritual suggest a direct continuous link between speculative craft Freemasonry and the workforce that constructed King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. And just to kind of state this too, ancient Egypt, you think about the Egyptians, right? This derives out of the Babylonians. This derives out of the Sumerians, right? Mesopotamia, you know. So these practices, in essence, you know, a lot of people believe come from the gods, right? The fallen. Serpent knowledge, right? And that it was guarded, you know, that these watchers went into underground caves, or ant people, like the Hopi talked about, went underground during the Great Flood and guarded these mysteries, these teachings, you know, and taught them to men, you know, after the flood. The Greeks, they also believed in, you know, the rites of Egyptian initiation. This is where we get a lot of our Hermetic principles. The rosacrucianism, same way, right? All of it's deriving from these same places. Judaism, all of it. You know, ultimately, when you look at all of the different religious beliefs around the world, they all have the same basic principles or outlines or stories, mythologies, right? Because they're all impressing upon you similar patterns, but of a one or more variations of something meant to initiate you or trigger that initiation within you, you know. And this is just and religion does it in an exoteric, external way. So everything's externalized. God's in the sky, right? Angels are physical beings, and so are demons, and, you know, all of that, right? Like, we see a very different viewpoint of that. And then you get into the esoteric, you know, and we see that, you know, Christ is within you, right? God is in you, you know. Demons are in you, right? Like, all of this becomes internal, and right, and that begins this, you know, this journey of learning the self, you know, the different pieces of self. Now, the ritual and ceremonials that constitute speculative craft masonry were not derived in a unique system from remote antiquity, whether Egyptian, Hebrew, or otherwise. In fact, speculative Freemasonry developed progressively through the ages as a natural consequence of the ecclesiastical environment in which succeeding generations of Freemasons worked. The fundamentals of modern speculative Freemasonry involved directly and indirectly from the practices and symbolisms that had been used in the earlier lodges of operative Freemasons, although the speculative aspects were expanded. Thus, the spiritual doctrines embodied within the Masonic ritual are extremely ancient, having been influenced by the teachings of many religions from time immemorial. Foremost among those influences in the ancient religions of Egypt. The oldest written records that have of any of the ancient religions are those from Egypt and are known as the pyramid texts. These texts are the hieroglyphic inscriptions in the pyramid of Unas, Teti, and Pepi, in particular, all of which are located in the vicinity of THGROUGH, and the date from 2300 BC to about 2100 BC. And before and during the 5th and 6th dynasties of Egypt, however, philological studies show that the original composition of these texts may have been conservatively dated at least to the pre-dynastic period. Yeah, they're definitely conservatively dated. It's much, much older. All the texts above show the ancient Egyptians' religion was founded on a belief of the circle of existence that commenced with the birth and the spirit and then progressed through a life on earth. It was believed that the divine spirit, or the Ka, accompanied the earthly body, which also had a soul, the Ba, right? Ka and Ba. And early life was terminated with a physical death, followed by a descent into the afterworld of the terrestrial kingdom, where the heart was weighed and the soul was judged. If the soul was not found wanting, the culminating events of the circle of existence were resurrection and ascent into the heavenly duat, which are referred to in the following words of the pyramid text of Teti. Rise up, thou Teti, stand up, thou mighty one, being strong. Sit thou with the gods. Do thou that which Osiris did in the great house of Anu. Thou hast received thy Sahu, and thy foot shall not fettered in heaven, nor shall thou be turned back upon earth. And it makes me think of your foot should not strike a stone and all that from the Bible. And if we kind of break this down a little bit, stand up, thou mighty one. Whenever we talk about the mighty ones in the Bible, we are referring to Nephilim, Gibborim, Raphaim, Elohim, right? And these meaning angels, right? Angels, watchers, guardians, princes, planets, right? The mighty ones being strong, deities. Archetypes of the zodiacal wheel, or astrological archetypes. We have 12 main archetypes, and that is the zodiac. Okay. Each age, right? Each archetype connects to elements. Each element and each deity connects to planetary names. Each planet has its own characteristics, if you will, positive and negative, its own traits, its own correlation to a color of the rainbow, a spectrum of the light, also correlates to a chakra, right? You see what I mean? Which correlates to a number, which correlates to a mineral, to a metal. And these are how we start to discover the different layers and principles of reality and of ourselves, in essence. But that's neither here nor there. That's highly advanced for today. This is part one, and we're just breaking into it today. We're going to continue to go forward with all of this. I'm just going to bust it down, but we have to start off with the simple shit first. And when he says, be strong, sit thou with the gods, do that thou which Osiris did in the great house of Anu. If you're sitting with the gods, you're in heaven, you're in the sky, right? That's where the gods dwell, in the spirit. And Osiris, which is one soul, infinitely resurrecting in spirit, right? So that's that spirit that animates each and every one of us. It is God. In the great house of Anu, Anu is the Father, right? So that would be the ultimate, the Lord of Lords. Thou hast received thy sahu, and thy foot shall not be fettered in heaven, nor shall thou be turned back. Now, sahu that must be received before resurrection and ascent into the heavenly du'a is a spiritual body that has obtained a sufficient level of knowledge, power, and glory to become everlasting and incorruptible, transcending the divine spirit, Ka, and the soul Ba that had accompanied the body during its earthly life. And this goes into rosacrucianism, right? This is what would we call it? God, it's slipping my tongue now. But the conversion of iron into gold, right? And this is the astral body. There we go, the astral body, right? So we are in essence working on building that astral body. And I will tell you this too. I'm not going to tell you how I know, but I'll tell you I know for a fact that a lot of the cuneiform and the glyphs that you see on the pyramid walls that talk about these journeys through the underworld are actually different forms of rituals to trigger this process of awakening. But you can also build literal parts of your spiritual body, the Ba. Right? You can build up your own Ba to accompany you on your journey into the underworld while you're still alive. And a lot of these priests and pharaohs, that's what they had the ability to do, was in essence stack energy. And it works like magnets. They could draw certain things to themselves. They could have more influence. There are many different variations, and we're going to get into that one day and talk about these rituals and practices and what they would actually do, and maybe give you some yourself if you want to, try it out. It's up to you. The circle of existence was central religion of ancient Egypt. The final stages of the circle of existence was represented richly by progress through various chambers in the Great Pyramid of Khufu. The entry of the soul into the afterworld begins in the chamber of ordeal, the subterranean chamber excavated deep into the bedrock below the pyramid, where a period of trial and probation must be completed. And remember, this is like at the deepest level of darkness, right, where it begins. If the soul is judged to be acceptable and determined symbolically by weighing the heart against a feather of justice, he ascends to the grotto known as the Well of Life. And just under the base of the pyramid, then the soul must reflect upon its passage through the life on earth before being allowed to ascend into the chamber of regeneration and rebirth, which is called the Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. After regeneration and rebirth, the soul must undergo a final period of purification in the Hall of Truth and Darkness, which is the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid. And after purification, the soul enters the Chamber of Resurrection, which is the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, whence The Sahu, or enlightened soul, returns to God in the heavenly duat, thus completing the circle of existence. The ceremonials in modern speculative Freemasonry include the symbolic element of the circle of existence. And I'll tell you this, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth as well, also have a lot of different rituals in it as well. That's what he's describing, going under the Great Pyramid, talking about ascending to heaven and all of that, right? These are just all rituals, right? So the influence of the ancient mysteries, ancient secret system of teaching are generally called mysteries, from the compound Greek word Mithrian, which is a range of associated meanings, including a mystery, a secret, and also an initiate. The mysteries have existed in all parts of the world and in all periods of its history. They taught suitably receptive in individuals about human nature and human destiny by imparting to their prepared minds what was known about human life and divine things, but they withheld the multitude who lack of education and understanding might process those teachings or might use the esoteric knowledge for perverse purposes. Such systems existed in Egypt, Assyria, Chaldea, India, China from the most ancient times, and they were also used among the Hebrews, the Greeks, the Druids, and the Romans in later times, and for many centuries before the advent of Christianity. Even in more recent times, the mysteries were practiced even among the early Christians and the Muslims. Yeah, that's like Ishmaelism and, Christian Gnosticism. All these are different layers of the same thing, And initiation in ancient mysteries is representative of a spiritual rebirth for which the candidate was required to undergo appropriate preparation and purification. In ancient times, preparation of the candidate for initiation could take many days, even weeks, and involve fasting, contemplation, stringent trials, and many absolutions. During the ceremony of initiation, the candidate was usually cloaked in white and conducted 3 times in a clockwise direction around the altar or other consecrated object. Great care was taken to follow the apparent clockwise course of the sun, which was in the northern hemisphere, was by the right, because the sun was a symbol of the commencement of a new life. The circuits were always commenced in the east, which is regarded as a source of light, thence passing through the south. And think about this, the east, which is the air or Aries, prince of the power of the east, right? Aries, Marduk, right? We see this, and he's known as like in ancient Egypt as the god of the sky, and all of that. Well, we look at that because he's Ra, right? The sun god as well. So yeah. And to the south, the west, and returning to the north and the east, which was esteemed by the birthplace of God, and hence a logical place to seek spiritual rebirth. Many famous persons were initiates of the ancient mysteries, and destruction comes from the east as well, right? Why? Because it's destruction, death, and rebirth, including Aristotle the philosopher and scientist, Euclid the mathematician, Plato the philosopher, Pythagoras the philosopher and mathematician, Socrates the philosopher, St. John, St. Paul, and many other well-known teachers. The Druidical mysteries in the ancient Celts were similar to other ancient mysteries, except that the initiate robe incorporated 3 colors that they considered to be sacred. They were white, which was a symbol of light, blue, which was a symbol of truth, and green, which was a symbol of hope. And as well, when we look at these colors, they also represent, green is emerald, which is truth, which is Lucifer. You see what I mean? So they have multiple meanings. Okay, and you learn that when you get deep into this stuff. The tricolored robe was to change to green robes towards the completion of the initiation ceremony, which was emblematical of the candidate's expectations of further enlightenment. In the next stage, which was equivalent to the second degree in speculative craft Freemasonry, the candidate wore a blue robe, emblematical of his search for the truth of life. And in the final stage, which was equivalent to the third degree in Freemasonry, the candidate wore a white robe, which was the light of knowledge for the ultimate object of his quest. And when the candidate successfully completed the stringent trials associated with the final stage, he was crowned with a red tiara, which symbolized the purification, regeneration of his soul. In the beginning of each session, the worship the Druids rededicated themselves. And when the priest made 3 clockwise circuits around the sacred central cairn, followed by all the worshippers and commencing from the east. And looking at this Brahmanism, yeah, I'm not surprised with, Brahm, the bull god, or anything like that as well. Aspects revealed to Hindus and hidden or esoteric faith of the mysteries. Brahmas, on first rising each morning, rededicate themselves by facing the east and during the sun. So you see, it's kind of like the same thing, no matter which school of thought you kind of look at. And I'm going to go, where's it at here? I got one of these books here that I want to share with you guys. Yeah, the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic. And the Golden Dawn is like a mix of, Hermeticism, Rosacrucianism, the OTO. It's, in essence, it's pretty much, one of the Egyptians. It's got a lot of all of the mysteries that are wrapped into this. So, here we go. Techniques of invocation and the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic. Let's see if we can. The ritual of the pentagram. The pentagram is a powerful symbol representing the operation of the eternal spirit and the 4 elements under the divine presidency of the letters of the name Yeshua. The elements themselves and the symbol of the cross are governed by Jehovah or Yod-He-Vad-He, but the letter Shin, representing Rosh Elohim, the divine spirit, being added thereto. The name becometh Yeshua, or Yehovashah. The latter, when the letter Shin is placed between ruling earth and the other letters of the Tetragrammaton, from each re-entering angle of the pentagram therefore issue a ray, representing radiation from the divine. Therefore it's called the flaming pentagram, or the star of the great light, and an affirmation of the forces of divine light to be found therein, traced as a symbol of good. It should be placed with a single point upward, representing the rule of the divine spirit. For if thou should write it with 2 points upward, it is an evil symbol, affirming the empire of matter over that divine spirit which should govern it. See that thou dost it not. And a lot of people have pointed out my old set that I use for YouTube. There's like, oh, you got a pentagram in the background, right? And the pentagram represents, a pinnacle in the tarot, but it's a starfish body, right? It's the 5 senses. It's your head, your 2 hands, your feet, right? It's the self, the physical self, the star, which, in the practice of the Lima, we are all stars. Stars are heavenly bodies or angels, right? And a lot of the schools of thought believe we are the fallen angels, So, stars are also planets. Alright, so there we go. They're telling you, don't put it upside down. Yet, if there may arise an absolute necessity for working or conversing with the spirit of the symbol of the pentagram reversed, for know thou well, thou canst have no right to injure or hurt even evil spirits to gratify curiosity or caprice. In such a case, thou shalt hold the blade of thy magical sword upon the single lowest point of the pentagram. Until such a time, thou shalt license him to depart. Also revile not evil spirits, but remember that the archangel Michael, of whom St. Jude speaketh, when contending with Satan, durst not bring a railing accusation against him, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. Now if thou wilt draw the pentagram to have by thee as a symbol, thou shalt make it of the colors ready taught upon the black ground. There shall be the sign of the pentagram, the wheel, the lion, the eagle, the ox, and the man. And those are the four faces of the cherubim, right? 6 wings, 4 heads, right? Representing 4 symbols, right? Like these are getting into, and these are angels, right? These are getting into different forms of us, you know, in the spiritual realm as well. Hence ariseth the supreme ritual of the pentagram. According to the angle from which the pentagram is traced, the circle or wheel answereth to all pervading spirit. The laborious ox is a symbol of the earth. The lion is the force of heat. And think about it, ox is Taurus, right? It's an earth sign. The lion is Leo, it's fire. The eagle, air, and water. Flying aloft as with wings, vaporized by the force of heat. The man is the air, subtle and thoughtful, or Gemini, penetrating, hitting things. At all times complete the circle of the place before commencing an invocation. It's showing you how to draw it here. Invoking pentagrams. At all times complete the circle of the place before commencing an invocation. The current leading from fire to air, from earth to water, are those of spirit. The mediation of active and passive elements. These 2 spirit pentagrams should precede and close invocations as the equilibrium of the elements and establishing harmony on their influence. In closing, these currents are reversed. And I've showed you guys, and this is spirit banishing, and this is spirit invoking. So this is how you invoke, this is how you banish. So one is open, one is closed. Okay, and you use this shit on, you know, your own. I am not responsible, you know, I am not responsible for anything that anybody does with this shit. Straight up. If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be fucking with this. Just to be honest. We are just demonstrating and showing you how ritual is used to call upon or awaken a spiritual process to take place in your life. The hexagram ritual is a powerful symbol representing the operation of 7 planets under the presidency of the Sephiroth and the 7-lettered name, Aurorita. The hexagram is sometimes called the signet star or symbol of the macrocosm, just as the pentagram is called the signet star or symbol of the microcosm. Aurorita is a divine name of the 7 letters formed of the Hebrew initials of the sentence. And you can do this too. You can take like letters. And I did this in Liber Null, the Psychonaut book. We did a video on this before, how we showed you could write something down you want to manifest. And you cross out all the doubles of the letters and you form a new word, and then that word becomes something you can speak and invoke and write it on things and put it on things to telegraph and bring power to that, and you'll know the meaning of this word, right? And you can put it in rituals as well. Burn sage and, you know, put it in water, depending on what elements you're trying to use. So there's a million different variations of doing this, and these are supposed to trigger these things in the spiritual realm. So anything that you're doing on the earth, ultimately, and remember, the primary law is frequency, right? It's vibration. So these are opening spiritual doors, if you will, to quicken you spiritually, to take away barriers from you and your negativity. That way you can face that darkness and transmute that energy into light. That way you can heal those parts of yourself, access parts of yourself that are normally closed off. That way you can connect to more energy. Open yourself up wider to higher and more dimensions. You know, and as you do that, you begin to raise your frequency, your vibration, hence attracting higher frequency, attracting more. You're able to take on more energy. You know, you're able to work with more. You develop more authority in the spiritual realm as well as you learn your craft, and as you rank up through this process. And this initiation is you are starting something, you're initiating the journey of illumination. You're lighting, you know, that spark, that divine spark within yourself. And you're taking care of it, making it become a flame. You know, and it's something that burns within you, you know, and it's like you have to be willing to go on every plane of reality. You know, whether it's, you know, thought, emotion, you know, writing something down, saying something, you know, ritualistic acts, by walking it out, by, you know, whatever. You know, these are all different ways of demonstrating these master keys, if you will, to ultimate enlightenment. You know, and they have worked for people for eons. You know, that's why they go back so far. They're ancient. They've been protected and guarded. You know, these are the secrets of humanity, the mysteries of humanity. You know, and those who learn them, these are the people who rule the world. These are the people, you know, who control our lives, right? Or control the masses, if you will. So,
the greatest battle our young adults...
Let's see if we can... I know this is not going to be for everybody, you know.
Authority,
Here we
then
go.
please listen as Mr. Jack Harris, a former... Since Masons believe that the ritual is their authority, then please listen as Mr. Jack Harris, a former worshipful master of the Lodge, continues to perform and explain the significance of portions of the entered apprentice degree, the first degree of Masonry.
We will now continue with our ritual in the first degree of Freemasonry. Mr. Smith, you are received into Masonry upon the point of a sharp instrument piercing your naked left breast, which is to teach you, as this is an instrument of torture to your flesh, so may the recollection thereof be to your conscience, should you ever reveal any of the secrets of Freemasonry unlawfully.
And the sword is like the Roman spear, piercing Christ's heart, which allows all the water out and all of that, right? Remember, the heart is a seat of the soul, you know, as well. So it's like condemning your soul if you tell these secrets. You're swearing an oath on your soul. That's why, you know, I've never taken an oath. That's why I'm allowed to talk about these things, because I've never sworn an oath. I've never taken an oath. And that's why the Bible says don't swear oaths, right? Because they're serious shit, you know, and you're bound by them. You know, if they use their methods, you're bound by their oaths, their you know, their rights. Also, representing, and there was another version of the way this goes too. It says, may the leaden bullet strike me, or the poignard stab my heart before lightning strike me off my horse, or something, if I utter these secrets. And I think that's actually for the Illuminati, but these are all variations of the same thing. Remember, he's in the darkness trying to find the light.
Vouchsafe thine aid, Almighty Father of the universe, to this our present convention, and grant that this candidate for Masonry may dedicate and devote his life to thy service. Endue him with the competency of thy divine wisdom, that by the secrets of our art he may be better enabled to display the beauties of holiness of thy holy name. Amen. Mr. Smith, in times of imminent peril and danger, in whom do you place your trust?
In God.
All right, as a former worshipful master, I want to ask you a couple things. First of all, we saw this segment with Bill Mencken, 32nd degree Mason, talking to Dr. Walter Martin. He said Masonry is not a religion and has no creed, no...
What the fuck? I see a comment. It says, Vikings bathed themselves in the blood of innocent. Your all-father holds no true power here, heretic. What the fuck? Dude, come on now, bro. The All-Father it's Saturn, you know. When it comes to the Vikings, that's Norse paganism, you know, and they have their own version of these things, and their deities or gods were also the planets as well. You know, we've discussed all of this. It all boils down to the same thing. I mean, you know, your Jesus ain't got no power either, if you want to be all the way real with you. You know, just saying the name Jesus don't mean shit. You know, that wasn't even his true name. You see what they actually have in these books. It's Yeshua, right? Or Jehovah, right? Which Jehovah, Jove given is Jupiter. Once again, Jesus, he bore our stripes, the stripe planet, Jupiter, right, which is Thor, and, you know, the god of lightning, or Zeus, Jesus, hail Zeus, Jesus, once again, who was the son of God. Jupiter was the son of Saturn, right, or Kronos, Satan, also, you know. So if we're really, you know, being honest, not one of these invocations have any more power than the other. The Christ, or Christos, means the anointing, right? That anointing comes from the divine anointing within, right? So Christ is within each and every one of us, right? Some people believe it is a metaphysical process that can be induced by ritual, spiritual practice, you know, mentalism, hermeticism, rosacrucianism, whatever you get into. But spiritual practice will induce sacred secretion of the pineal gland, which is that little pine cone you see all the little Anunnaki people holding and shit like that, right? That actually is our metaphysical antenna. And that's why the jab, you know, in the graphene oxide, which is in essence like a magnetic substance, right? And remember, we're electromagnetic beings, went to the magnetic pole of our body, which was our pineal gland, and it destroyed it. So it destroyed our receiver, you know, to tune into the spirit. And if that's not the mark of the beast, I don't know what is. You know, and that's what a lot of these processes are doing. You know, is working you through the maze of self. You know, remembering. You know, putting the pieces back together of the spiritual body to make ourselves whole again, because we are fragments or fractals of the Creator. We are divine sparks of the Creator.
Confession of faith, okay? Then we watched as you actually performed the ritual. And it seemed to me that you did have a creed, you did have a confession of faith. Tell us what you were doing and talk to both of those areas.
Okay, the first area dealing with being received as a Freemason into the lodge. You are received upon the penalty of a sharp instrument piercing your naked left breast.
Yeah, now that was pretty rugged. What do you think about that threat of punishment from a Christian point of view?
From a Christian point of view now, I believe that it's very hard for me to be a witness for Jesus Christ in the world, at the same time knowing I belong to an organization that is telling me that I must keep their religious secrets secret, or I will suffer a penalty of death. I have a hard time with this as a Christian.
Okay, you got a secret organization versus an open one.
We know that Christianity is actually Mithraism.
How to stimulate the pineal gland to unblock your...
Dionysus and all this, it's sun worship. What is an astrological practice as well. You know, so that's what they're talking about. The solstice. It's taking place on the December 25th, his birthday. I mean, we could go on and on about this. That's why he comes out of Virgo, which Bethlehem, House of Bread, is actually a star in the constellation of Virgo, born of the Virgin, right? He's the lion of the tribe of Judah, Leo. You know, it's, I hate to bust people's ass on that, but, you know, and it's like, that's what Carl Jung...
We will now continue with a presentation of the ritual...
Carl Jung was talking about how even the stars, the astrological story, is a manifestation or a projection of the human collective consciousness. And that's how we're able, you know, in Bibles and religious books, they all tell the same story, right? Flood stories and all of this, creation stories, creation mythos, because this is true on a collective level. And these are the narratives, and all these 12 main archetypes we all have within each one of us, because we're all, in essence, you know, a piece of the same thing. You know, so we all have that trademark, that imprint of the Creator within us. You know, and the Creator has a story, has a narrative, has a character, has, you know, all of this, and it's up to us through the way we conduct ourselves, conduct our lives, the type of lives we live, right? And the amount of awareness of all the dimensional aspects of these things are able to bring it all together and activate it, you know, on every level, in every plane within ourselves and within our lives, within our world. Well, hey, I mean, you guys everybody's welcome to their own opinions and beliefs, and I know that people are not going to agree with everything. If you're in the chat, I do want to ask you, please don't attack one another for your spiritual beliefs and all of that. You know, like, we should be past that by now. You know, if you don't agree with somebody in the chat, just let them believe what they believe and you believe what you believe. You know, it's like, have love for one another in spite of your differences. You know, you're going to see ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they believe. It only matters what you believe, you know. Yeah, no, it's no worries. It's nothing to be worried about or, you know, apologize about, you know, but it's like we should be taking care of each other and looking out for each other and supporting each other no matter what our differences. And it's like, I know not everybody believes the same thing. You don't have to. This is such a we study so many fucking things on this channel. We look at so many different variations of things. It would be impossible to find all of us into the same thing. And a lot of people that's watched me years ago, as opposed to people that's found me recently, are very different. I'm very different than what I was years ago. Some people think I'm a lot darker than I used to be, and I mean, that may be true, right? You know, but I definitely, and I was talking to somebody earlier, I did a tarot reading earlier, which people hate me for that. You know, that's divination, that's witchcraft and all of this, which I refuse to hold on to dogmatic anything anymore. I have no guilt for my beliefs. I have no shame for my beliefs. I believe what I believe, and that's between me and the Creator, as well as you know, whatever you believe. So I don't allow guilt and shame and all that to creep into my life. I am what I am who I am, and I'm okay with it. You know, so the tarot thing, I used to get a lot of shit for that, and sometimes every now and then I still do. So I was doing a reading today, and I was talking to somebody, and they were saying that they felt guilty when they would look at the occult or, you know, certain things because of their religious upbringing, in particular with Christianity, you know. And it's like, I told them, I was like, that was the thing that was the last chain that I broke, when it comes to like, you know, mental freedom, you know, like truly awakening and stepping into awareness of self. And I mean, it's a process and a journey, and it never ends. And I thought I was so fucking enlightened, and then I got with my last girlfriend, and you know what? She wasn't enlightened at all, but in certain ways, a person who don't study any of this taught me a lot of things. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm always humbled by a lot of things in life. You know, as soon as I think I know so much, it's like I'm shown that I don't know shit, and that it's still a long journey, and I still got a long way to go. You know. But I no longer, you know, hold on to the guilt of religion to stop me from believing. And that's why, you know, I play the little satanic music, have the little pentagrams in the background. I don't give a fuck. I hope, honestly, that people misinterpret those kind of things. I mean, this is an occult channel. We look at the occult quite often. I'm always showing fucking Satanism and Luciferianism of the elites. Nobody has a problem with it if we're talking about the New World Order, right? But if we talk about real serious shit, and we're showing real rituals, real handbooks, real shit, you know what I mean? It's like people have a problem then. You know, it's wild. I've always been blown away by that. It's like, okay, so I'm showing you how it actually works, but you don't want to see that. You just want the bullshit of me saying, oh, this is New World Order reptilians, they're Satanists, they sacrifice kids. But when I show you how it actually works, you don't want to see that. You know, then that's evil or that's boring. It's like, this is legit. This is how you can learn it yourself. Come to your own conclusion on what it is. You know, how it works. Does it work? You know, whether one considers studying the hidden is right or wrong, it can be looked at as knowing self. Yeah, man. You know, you're welcome for a great reading. I enjoyed that reading earlier. It's always fun to do readings, you know, and Mel's a regular. She gets readings all the time. You guys have no idea how much the readings help me, too. People buy tarot readings. They help me so much. Financially, they help me stay sharp, you know, spiritually as well. I enjoy doing the tarot. You know, and it's really helped, you know, expand my horizons so much, you know, into astrology and everything else. I've studied every craft and every spiritual concept or religion you can imagine. And anybody who's watched me, you know, from day one knows that. They know that there's not a topic I haven't touched. You know, I'm not afraid to go into anything. And on my own, I study these things intensely. And Freemasonry has been something I have really gotten into over the last 6 months to a year, so deeply it's not even funny. I mean, I listen to Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike when I go to sleep at night, you know, because I'm captivated by the principles, by the methodology, by the rituals, and by how it actually fucking works. And then by the way we interpret it and then demonize it, you know, as a public. And I'm not saying, you know, that there's not bullshit that goes along with it. Obviously, we know there is. You know, there are people that abuse everything, but I don't believe that, you know, people really get the real gist of what it is. You know, if they did, if they understood, you know, what it truly is, I don't think that any of them would.
The real mystery does not behave mysteriously.
Would have half of the negative thoughts that they do about it. Now we're going to pull this up. This is Carl Jung, right? This is where the circumambulation comes from. A lot of this is, you know, psychology. Like I said, this breaks down in so many different things.
Or secretively. It speaks a secret language. It adumbrates itself by a variety of images which all indicate its true nature. I'm not speaking of a secret personally guarded by someone with a content known to its possessor, but of a mystery, a matter or circumstance which is secret. Carl Gustav Jung, the father of analytical psychology, was one of the most influential psychologists of all time. Throughout his life, Jung formulated numerous groundbreaking psychological concepts that have left an indelible mark on the field. Among these are synchronicity, archetypal phenomena, the collective unconscious, psychological complexes, the personality traits of extroversion and introversion, and the process of individuation. The son of a Protestant who refused to adhere completely to any religious doctrine, Jung studied throughout his life various religious traditions, including Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Gnosticism, as well as esoteric traditions like alchemy and astrology. But what inspired Jung to dedicate his entire life to this field, and most importantly, what gave birth to his profound fascination with alchemy and the esoteric arts? The answer is complex, but there is one important but overlooked hint that could solve this riddle. And this hint lies dormant in the mysterious history of Grand Lodge Alpina of Switzerland, whose second Grand Master was Carl Gustav Jung, his grandfather. Welcome to Agrippa's Diary, the gathering place for modern mystics. Carl Gustav Jung. In 1912, Jung published Symbols of Transformation, a work that marked the beginning of his break from Freudian psychoanalysis. This publication detailed Jung's evolving theories which focused on the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the process of individuation. The collective unconscious refers to the universal psychological structures shared by all humans, inherited from our ancestors and passed down through generations. Archetypes are the powerful symbols and images that arise from the collective unconscious and manifest in dreams, myths, and cultural patterns.
And thank you, moderators.
Individuation is the process of realizing one's true self by integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche, ultimately leading to psychological wholeness. Jung's approach to psychology differed from Freud's in several key ways. He was more open to the spiritual aspects of human experience and believed that the unconscious contained not only repressed memories, but also creative and spiritual resources.
And see the circumambulation, you see the zodiac, the tarot, the astrological archetypes, these are deities, planets, right?
Furthermore, Jung recognized the significance of symbolism and mythology, often drawing on these sources to enrich his psychological theories. In his later years, Jung conducted extensive research on Eastern religions and philosophical traditions, which greatly influenced his work on the psychology of religion. But there is a certain aspect of Jung's life that no one talks about, and that is his connection to the Freemasons, a fraternal organization that traces its origins to the local fraternities of stonemasons in the late medieval period. Just for context, Masonic teachings revolve around allegorical and symbolic lessons, drawn primarily from the tools and practices of the medieval stonemasons, as well as from biblical and classical sources. So, for his Dreams Reflections, Carl Jung writes, "I began to understand that the goal of psychic development is the self. There is no linear evolution. There is only a circumambulation of the self."
I began to understand that the goal of psychic development is the self. There is no linear evolution. There is only a circumambulation of the self. So it's like no linear path as given to you by religion. You know, it's just a process. You know, that's why it's a secret, because people don't know the process. They don't know how to begin the process. They don't know the steps of the process. You know, but there's an art to it. You know, there is ritual aspects to it. There's practical aspects to it.
Uniform development exists at most at the beginning. Later, everything points toward the center. This insight gave me stability, and gradually my inner peace returned. In Jungian psychology, circumambulation is the process of moving around a central point or object, both literally and metaphorically. In the context of Jung's theories, this concept is often associated with the process of individuation, where an individual strives to integrate their conscious and unconscious aspects to achieve psychological wholeness. Circumambulation, as a psychological process, involves revolving around the self, the central organizing principle of the psyche, which represents the totality of an individual's conscious and unconscious experiences. By engaging in self-exploration and self-discovery, I
want to show you too. You know, you have the outer world, the inner world, and you see it's broken down into two aspects of the self, right? The persona the ego, and the shadow, or the anima, and animus, which is masculine, feminine. And you see collective consciousness and collective unconscious, and the personal self and personal unconscious.
Individual gradually
And this is
integrates the
model of
various...
the psyche, right? Or psyche. And remember, the outer psyche is outer space, right? It's outside of the collective consciousness of all of us. You can look at planet Earth as a collective third eye for humanity. It being spherical in nature, right? With the lens being the dome, right? The dome, the electromagnetic field, you know? And that is the optical lens. And the stars and the sun, the central sun, are giving off frequencies of light, vibrations of light, which are refracted through the prism we call the electromagnetic field. And they are holographically projected into images, phantoms, illusions, specters of electromagnetic energy or vibrations, variations, which is us. Right? So the covenant being the rainbow, right? Which are 7 colors, right? Which are the 7 sons of Satan or whatever, right? And the 7 main planets as well. And then you have the sun and the moon also, you know, solar and lunar, breaking down into 2 pillars, which would be, you know, persona and anima, right? The inner and outer world, the higher, the lower. You know, remember in the Bible it talks about, or in the book of Enoch, which is referred to in the Bible, even though Christians say it's evil, it's referred to by Jesus in the Bible too. Not just anybody, Jesus refers to it. It talks about how the firmament, which is the field, separates the waters above and the waters below. Right? And we're made up of 80% water. The earth is made up of 80% water. Water has memory. We got the experiments by Dr. Miramoto that shows our words have direct correlation and connection to the physical environment. You know, good and bad. It's like, that's the power, right? You know, this is our spellcraft where we understand or stand under the spelling of the word. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, right? Word is speech, it's sound, it's vibration. Our physical reality, the image, is sound, you know, and God is light, right? Light and sound, ultimately. And everything we see, you know, this is a reflection of the waters above, so that's why we have that firmament, you know, that lens. And when we perceive images with our eyes, they are upside down. They hit the back of our eyeball and flip the right way up. We're seeing things. This is the upside down. This is the underworld. This is Stranger Things, if you will.
Various aspects of their personality, such as their ego, persona, shadow, anima/animus, and the self. This process allows the individual to maintain a balance between opposing psychological forces and achieve a greater sense of wholeness and harmony. Jung believed that the process of circumambulation could be observed in various cultural and religious practices such as rituals, myths, and mandalas.
Yeah, you see it, Mecca,
These
mandala.
practices often involve symbolic representations of wholeness, unity, and the reconciliation of opposites. Jung writes, "The union of opposites on a higher level of consciousness is not a rational thing, nor is it a matter of will. It is a process of psychic development that expresses itself in symbols." Jung saw these practices as expressions of the human psyche's natural inclination towards self-integration and the pursuit of psychological balance. And curiously enough, one of the most profound moments of the initiatory ceremony in a Masonic lodge is a certain rite known as circumambulation. The etymology of the word circumambulation can be traced back to Latin origins. It is derived from 2 Latin components, circum and ambulare. Circum means around or about, indicating encircling or surrounding something. Ambulare is a Latin verb that means to walk or to move. In short, it is the act of circling around a sacred object. The interpretation of this ritual is typically understood as a symbolic depiction of life's great journey. We, as humans, enter the world in a state of ignorance and vulnerability, reliant on others for guidance and support. Throughout our lives, we face numerous challenges, dangers, and fears. Circumambulation is often described as a representation of this experience. Although this interpretation does not conflict with facts or reason, it is likely that the ritual holds a deeper meaning. Circumambulation is an ancient and nearly universal practice. The Egyptians employed it in various religious ceremonies, such as carrying images of Isis or Osiris around temples or altars. Similar solemn rituals were conducted by the Jews, who would encircle the sacrifices, and the Arabs, who shared numerous customs with the Jews. Even today, many Brahmin sects incorporate this ritual. A priest must circle a sacred tree or pool during their initiation. Upon waking early in the morning, the priest faces the sun and walks in a circle, maintaining the center to their right. The laws of Manu dictate that in a wedding ceremony, the bride should circle the domestic hearth. For ancient Buddhists, such a ceremony held great significance, leading them to construct stone galleries around shrines for pilgrims and worshippers to circumambulate the image of Buddha. It is likely that Freemasonry has utilized the rite of circumambulation from its inception. In one of the ancient York rituals, the apprentice, demonstrating their worthiness to become a fellow, would move from one station to another, undergoing different tests by the master and the wardens. The rite of circumambulation symbolizes the process of harmoniously adapting to one's surroundings. As mentioned earlier, in Jungian psychology, circumambulation is associated with the process of individuation, where an individual strives to integrate their conscious and unconscious aspects to achieve psychological wholeness. While Freemasons use this practice in their initiatory rites, Jung described the process in a more academic way, suited for his psychological studies. But the similarities between Jungian psychology and the royal art taught in Freemasonry don't end here. Inherent in Jung's psychology is the belief that life is not simply a random biological occurrence, but rather a structured and purposeful process. Based on this, the numerous challenges we face in life, such as trauma, loss, anxiety, depression, despair, and illness, are essential, albeit difficult components of the transformative.
You see the flaming heart of Venus there, right? Lucifer. See, it's a Veritas, right? And there's a flaming heart, sacred heart. You know, see Sacred Heart Jesus, it's the flaming heart of Lucifer, you know, the divine feminine, love, it's always on the chest. That's where Jesus was pierced for his last time. He was pierced 5 times for the 5 senses. He died on the cross, right?
Workings of the human psyche. We often mistakenly view ourselves as victims of our symptoms and suffering. However, these personal struggles are at the core of many archetypal themes and mythological patterns. Acknowledging the mythic aspects underlying our individual experiences dissolves our self-centered claims to life's joys and sufferings, connecting us more authentically with the human experience. By focusing on the shared aspects of existence instead of the distinguishing features of personality, we liberate ourselves and those around us. In this regard, the objectives of Jungian analytical psychology and Freemasonry are similar, as the communal bonds of brotherhood stem from a dedication to our collective human fate rather than the self-centered aim of refining and preserving one's personal identity. Both analytical psychology and Masonry necessitate a spiritual sensitivity without being religions themselves.
And, you know, we look at, this is angles and circles. When we look at the compass and all of this and the tools of Freemasonry, And in essence, it's trying to bring about an understanding of the architectural structure of the matrix, of our reality. And this great architect, Lucifer, or Enki, or Ea, or Christ, or whatever archetype you want to insert there for the light aspect, or the creator aspect, the knowledge bringing aspect, right, gives us guidelines to understand the inner workings of it and light up these patterns in our own life, which triggers this awakening, this coming to God moment, and illuminates these mysteries within ourselves. In essence, inspiring us to know our true self, our true nature, you know, how we work, how it all works, and seeing the entire creation as an extension of self. So when we talk about circumambulation, you know, it's the cycle of life, the process of enlightenment, the process of illumination. Yeah, you can bring it back to Freemasonry and mystery schools and, you know, Egypt and Rosacrucianism, the Golden Dawn, the OTO, whatever you want to take it to. It's got a correlation, a connection. All the religions have an exoteric perspective as well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you're looking at psychology, you're looking at the occult, you're looking at alchemy, right? This key, this master key, is something, if recognized, starts you on the path or the journey that is that downward spiral on the journey in, right? The inner earth, which is you, the inner you. Discovering the self. And remember, the key is to know thyself. Right? Know thyself. You know, it's what we're all trying to do at the end of the day. You know, the more we know and love about ourselves, the more we will know and love about the creation around us. So, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining me. I'm going to stop this one here. I feel like this is a good place to kind of, you know, put this one to bed. I didn't want to take it too long anyways. You know, circumambulation. This is just one. We're going to hit the mysteries hardcore. I have got occult series after occult series, witchcraft, black magic. We're going to be doing numerology, gematria, all of it, dude. We're going to be going down the rabbit hole on all of this. And I'm going to put together a compendium of all of these videos and like playlist for patrons and subscription holders and donors and stuff like that. As part of like a mystery school, I'm going to start showing you guys the different rituals and rites and things that I do too, moon manifestations and all of that. I'm trying to put something really cool together. If you haven't checked me out on TikTok. I've been posting lots of videos there. Instagram at Best Damn Podcast. Facebook at Best Damn Podcast. Twitter, The Real Best Damn. If you don't see the blue check, we're now verified. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, then it's not us. So make sure you're following on all of those, all of our social media. Check us out, Rumble, BitChute. You can see a lot more of our hardcore stuff on there as well. Check out last night's show, The Lie Called Reality. Really good video. It's doing really well also. Make sure to share all of these too. Subscribe, follow, like, comment, share it to groups, you know, share it to the platforms. It helps so much. Join our subscriptions, book a tarot reading, the Real Best Damn Podcast at gmail.com, or text 513-393-2396. Yeah, donate, support the channel. It helps me so much. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Facebook Messenger Pay, or over on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. Stool Purger, Mist, Kimberly F, Jam Low, Autumn Sage, We have to be nice if we're moderators. You can't be timing people out for no reason. Can't be doing that, guys. Matthew Short, Paolo W. I've seen some complaints about my moderators too. Melopedia Britannica, Mark Buchanek. So, I'm looking for new moderators. I'm looking for people to fucking join me on a lot of this stuff, you know. So, whatever, help me with that. You know, they deleted our Discord, and I'm trying to figure out new ways we can do private content and just bring so much more. I've been working my ass off on the shows, so, you know, go check it out, man. Donate, support, share, subscribe. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I will see you next time. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Peace.